Morning. Good morning, Roxanne. Thank you for my brooms as always. Sweeping time very soon. Oriagani, morning. Arlene Lewis, morning to you. Um, that is correct, Roxanne. Nothing to do with that. Carol Boyce John, morning to you. Pamela O'Connor, morning, Pamela. Morning, Merle. Pauline Buckmeyer, morning, Pauline. Rockman Gangadine, morning to you. Anne Marie Arthur, morning. Annette Baird, Glenn Richardson, morning, sir. Facebook, we have Deborah Duranti, morning. Sam Toppen, morning, Sam. Morning, Diane. Jaden Bull 66, Leon Joseph, Otoko friend, morning. Dish, morning. Patty Kutu. Right, so I just jumped on for a little bit this morning, folks. Won't be long this morning because my central bank meeting that was postponed was unpostponed. So, yeah, I guess that's how it goes. I think I'll take the opportunity to ask them if the Auditor General met with them to interrogate the ECCS system. I'll take that opportunity this morning. Don't know if they will respond, but anyway, John Cato, morning. Think for yourself, morning to you. Let's just Sydney, morning. Gaylan Jackson, Natalie F. Veronica Jack, morning. Kevin Thomas, morning to you, sir. Nadia Lewis Dixon, morning, Nadia. Alison Samuel, morning, Alison. All right, so let me jump into it right away because I might just be able to take like half an hour of calls. A whole set of stuff to discuss, but I don't have the time this morning. But when Sunday's convention, special convention, and then presentation of candidates, so I won't be able to have my live on Sunday either. Right? So, but I said no. I could have done it tomorrow, but yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll still jump on in the morning and touch on a few other things. So, of course, let me just touch on the main trending issues. So, as Roxanne would have mentioned, the UNC has decided that their strategy is to attack personalities with all of their nastiness, ably supported in Tobago by the TPP. Because I'm seeing them, man, they're posting like crazy anything and everything that they could find negative about Dr. Ali and the PNM. All of these TikTok videos that people are doing and who cussing out the Prime Minister. I mean, cussing it. Like, real cuss, like Sila come on show. They posting these things up. And, it tells you about the caliber of party that when your supporters have no problems in trying to malign the Prime Minister and the government, will share videos that are laced with expletives. They couldn't care if children come across it. It's just, and these people going on TikTok. TikTok, of course, is a social media platform that is popular with young people, teenagers, and so on. Right? And further to that, I mean, everybody. We saw the other day when back in January the 19th, when TikTok shut down for a few hours. That stunt that they pulled, we've not heard anything further. Donald Trump had said that he was going to extend it for a little bit, and you haven't heard anything further on it. But these persons who feel that it's okay to go on these social media platforms, freedom of speech. I came across one and I'm man, cuss if you have food and mother, so and so. And I'm like, wow, boy. And the content lacking, solely lacking. But anyway, so a couple of days ago, we would have seen where the Prime Minister would have, let me get the correct tune, man. Correct tune. That seems to be the issue. Right. So the government commemorated the practical completion of the construction of the Port of Spain General Hospital, Central Block. They never said they were opening the hospital. They said they commemorated the practical completion of the construction of the Port of Spain Hospital. So the plant, as they call it, right, is complete. So all that is needed now would be the completion of the outfitting as well as the installation of the various pieces of equipment, medical equipment, and so on, outfitting the wards and all of these different things. But the building itself, the plant as they call it, construction has been completed. Now, it seems that that would have put a spoke in the UNC's wheel, because even their own supporters, who for the last 9 years have been saying the PNM do nothing, they have built nothing. The leader love to say that they have done nothing, they have built nothing, this, that. Well, there is evidence to show, right? Maybe if the media would do more of what they did a couple of days ago, which is to highlight things that were built over the last 9 years, 9.5 years, wouldn't have had this problem. But they don't do that. Okay, that's not important to them. So even in the face of seeing this building, we see that the Prime Minister is going to conduct a similar exercise with respect to the new Tobago Airport terminal. And I need to stress, it is the terminal, no airport, the terminal. It is a brand new terminal, but the other airport facilities that have been there for a while, some of which was upgraded, is still in use and would be in use. Yeah. I noticed the IDA, led by former PNM member Denise Soefat Angus, they decide to join in on the nonsense as well, criticizing the exercise that the Prime Minister is going to undertake, right? Because they're saying if the terminal is finished, where the Prime Minister coming for to cut ribbon and so on. These people seem hell-bent on depriving Dr. Rowley of his legacy, right? Rowley must go, Rowley must go, Rowley must go. Well, he go in. He's practically gone. He has about 3 days left as Prime Minister, and then he becomes an ordinary member of Parliament. I don't know if he becomes a backbencher as the case. Maybe we will see how that unfolds at the next sitting of Parliament. But Rowley must go, he gone. But that is not enough for them. No, he must go in ignominy, shame and disgrace. All of these major projects would have been initiated under Dr. Rowley. We know that the UNC, while they like to lie and lay claim for the Sangre Grande Hospital and the Arima Hospital and Point Fortin Hospital, say, oh, they built that. Never mind the fact that all they did was turn sod. But for them, apparently, turning sod is construction of a hospital. So they come there, oh, Rowley Tungande. Big ceremony, ribbon cutting ceremony, and the building of the hospital not completed yet, and so on. But Kamla had big ribbon cutting ceremony too, and sod turning ceremony for the Arima Hospital. She and Munilal and Fuad Khan and all sorts of them, and Chinese representatives and all of them were there. Why you all didn't make a complaint about that? Why you all didn't make a complaint about that? So what you need to do that for? So many other things, all the billion and sod turning ceremony. But they had a sod turning ceremony. Okay. The same woman who opened the Kuva Children's Hospital, but I read for you all a couple of days ago, the article, Fuad Khan. Kuva Children's Hospital commissioned but closed. So they had big commission ceremony, same thing, ribbon cutting and all kind of thing, breeze blow. Remember the tent fall down, all kind of thing while they were there. They did that, and then the hospital was closed because they still had work to be done. They still had equipment to put in and so on. But the fully done, like they forget that. So you need to remind them, and how easy it is to just go and Google it, and you will find the articles which speaks to that. When this administration told you that they came in and the hospital was not complete. But the fully done who want to attack Dr. Rowley, oh, the big ribbon cutting, and look, because Mr. David Naked, because they realize the impact that these things can have on the electorate, right? People who are not in the know, deliberately so, choose not to be in the know, right? Choose to be ignorant, because to educate yourself on the things that the government has done over the last 9.5 years, for some people, it would lead to an attack of conscience, because I've vexed with the government for whatever it is, for something minor in a lot of cases. And if it is that they were to make themselves aware of all the other things that the government would have done over the last 9.5 years, how I could criticize the government, how I could say I'm not going to vote when it is that I'm upset over this one little thing, and in many cases it's some little thing, in the face of all these other things that have been done that I didn't know about. So some people choose to remain in willful ignorance, right? Those who have a minutia of conscience still. But when these things in your face, you can't deny it. But yet still, notwithstanding that, you will still have the fully dones who will come and say, seeing this hospital, seeing the Tobago terminal, and other things, I say, Rowley and do nothing. 9.5 years, what they do? Name one thing that the PNM do. They will stand up in front of Central Block and still utter that, to tell you the depth of their stupidity. The abject stupidity, some of them. I don't care. Some of them who listen and who vex and because they think whatever it is. It is the truth. It is a fact. I'm not going to sugarcoat it because it is what it is. Right? Donkey logic. Some of them living in HTC houses that were built over the last 9.5 years. They were more fortunate than others. You're like the best bone in the PNM's body, but you're living in a house that the PNM built. And then talking, oh, they ain't do nothing and they ain't build nothing and what they do for the people. Shameless. Right? Point me to where the UNC built houses now. Point me to where. I always speak about terrestrial gardens. Where Munilal said in the last days of their term in office, some 1,200 houses constructed and ready for occupation. And when the media went, all they found was a load of gravel, a load of sand, and tobacco. So apparently they built a house for ants and bachak. Yeah? Not for people, not for human habitation. But ask them, you ever hear them talk about how many houses they built? Only in local election during the campaign, one or two of them make mention of that, and then it went back into hibernation. They don't talk about these things. Oh, the PNM do nothing and they ain't do nothing. So think in all your face now. So what they want to do, they complaining. So David Nackett, that bacchanalist that he is, that clown, decided that he wants to somehow, he got into the building and he decided to do a video, right? To show, look, they had big thing and they spent so much money to open 2 floors. Well, at least 2 floors opened, right? At least 2 floors open. And from what we can see, it looks much better than what it is Prasad Bisesa would have opened. So they commissioned 2 floors. So we have an idea as to what the final product is going to look like. And the Minister of Health indicated that he expects they will start taking patients by July of 2025 this year. Right? So in about 3 months' time, 3 to 4 months' time, they will be able in a position to start taking in patients. Right? Whether it be the transfer of existing patients who are on the old campus, who will be transferred across, and then they will start the process as time goes by. They're going to roll out further services as the equipment is installed. Persons are trained in how to use the equipment and the like. You have your technicians on standby and all of these things, right? So it's a gradual process, but the building itself is complete. But they have a problem with that. You know why? Because we don't have a Rowley name there and the plaque. They do all of that because they want Rowley name. So whose name you want to be on it? He was the prime minister that initiated it. Construction took place under him. That is part of his legacy. When it says that Kamala in her last days was all over the country opening fire station and police station just so that her name could be on the building. The Mayaro police station, fire station. Well, let me talk about that before, right? They hustled to open it. When they had the ribbon cutting ceremony, it read Mayaro police station, and by the time the ceremony was over and everybody left, it became the Mayo police station because the letters started to fall off. They used duct tape in their haste. They used duct tape to stick on letters for the name of the fire station. No equipment, no fire tender, nothing of the sort, just a shell. And they come and cut, fire station. Nothing. Where were the fully dons who complaining now? Where were you all then? Well, they was applauding that. Yes, let's look. It's Pandey who say, when you're in government, make sure you build things so after you leave office and they ask where you spend the money on, you could point and say, we build this, we build that, and we build that. How many fire stations the PP built? No equipment, no fire tender, nothing. And then it fell to this government now to come to find the money to be able to equip these things. So they're building all kind of things to say, right? But no practical use. None. It's, well, hopefully we will win a second term and we'll deal with that in the second term. But for now, no future planning. This is how we are going to fund these things. And if we don't win, well, that's Rowley and them problem. They had to find the money to deal with these things, among all the other things that they have to pay for as well. So they have an issue with the Tobago Airport Terminal. You're getting, and you know, it's amazing. Eh? In some days, when I'm looking at these posts, the posts from the Tobago People's Party Connect Facebook page, shameless. In some cases, they're worse than the UNC. Worst. When anything good that happened, they're not publishing at all. Right? But anything nasty they could get, digging up and going and posting things from 10 years ago and 15 years ago and all kind of nonsense. They're so desperate for content. What is happening with that AudioGate investigation? Because when you go to that Facebook page, it is clear that what we heard in that AudioGate clipping is in force. paying people to spread propaganda whole day on social media. And that is all, and it's the same names. Same names. J.B. Harper, Mysita Tuck, Kester Reed, Wendy Ford. These are the names. Same people. The Boston, they have over 5,000 members on the page. But when you look, it's the same people always posting all the time. Tobago Rose, same people. What does that tell you? That is their work. That is what they're doing. Right? They have to earn the stipend. So every day when you go on that page, things popping up, it's the same names. Coincidence? Tells you something. So the police need to look into that page as part of their investigation into AudioGate and have a chat with some of these people. They need to do that. Right? It might be very instructive and might be of great assistance in their investigation into AudioGate. Public monies, they're always complaining they don't get enough money from central government and they need more funding and more funding. But yes, that's what they're using people money for. Public money is taxpayers' money to pay people to post propaganda whole day. Whole day. Same people. 10, 15 posts. And if it is, they get the only engagement they get in terms of comments is from PNM supporters, chastising them for the nonsense, and they might get 1 or 2 likes. So they're not even good at that. Not even good at that. But that is what they're doing. So as I said, they would like Dr. Rowley to go down in ignominy, shame and disgrace. Deny him his legacy. All they wanted him go in, relax all yourself. The same nonsense the UNC pulled in 2015 when they bring Vanilla Allen Toppin to accuse the man of being a rapist and the father is a rapist and all of that, and who is the product of a rape and all of that. And he's so bombastic and he's all of that. Throw him out of the parliament. Suspended him, threw him out of the parliament. How did that work for you all? It only helped. Helped. Because the thing they don't understand, you will have what is called sleeper PNM supporters. Yeah, they might be vexed with the party and who, may have voted the PNM done win already. I'm warning PNM people about that nonsense. I see this PNM done win already. Forget that. There's no time for that in this election. Huh? The only way, if every PNM member were to say the PNM done win already, the PNM would lose. It's not going to take you much. If you're working, you're afforded 2 hours to go and vote. Right? 2 hours to go and vote. Behave yourself. Do what you need to do. Right? Come on. Stand up in a line, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes. Do your civic duty now. Because there's greater things at risk, at stake. For you to say, go and vote now. Yeah, PNM done win already. Forget that. Every single vote counts in this election. Yes, it may seem that the UNC is falling apart at the seams, but let us not be complacent about these things. Right? Do not fall into a sense of complacency. I say, yeah, UNC, yes. No. I can tell you, what support they have left is very, very motivated to go out and vote. So don't take that for granted at all. They may, anyway, that's a discussion because I'm looking at the time. Right? Yes. So I was making the point, they so want to damage the man's reputation. They're fighting it down. Thing open and whatever. I said, Dr. Ali, you do what it is that you have to do. Right? They vex that your name on the plaque. It is what it is. Because the PNM, Mr. Manning made the mistake in 2010 of building stuff and not opening it, or not commissioning it, not putting his name on it. And then Kamala Prasad-Bissessar came in as Prime Minister and they lay claim to it. So that's why they can see today they built 106 schools. And as I played for you all a couple of days ago, and you would have heard from former Minister of Education, Anthony Garcia, nothing could be further from the truth. After he finished rubbishing Tim Gopi Singh's contribution, it went from 106 to 51. 51 that they could legitimately lay claim to. But the rest, PNM. They came in and met it under construction. But because Mr. Manning didn't stamp his name on it, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar was able so to do. Tim Gopi Singh was able so to do. Rudal Monilal was able so to do. Right? So you do what it is that you have to do. This is part of your legacy. You built that. As I said, in 11.5 years, UNC gave us 1 hospital. In 9.5, you gave us 5. But the fully dones would never applaud you for that. They would never applaud you for that. If you David Naked or that bald-headed lout that is Anil Roberts will ever applaud you for that. If you Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, the liar that she is, will mount a platform and say, PNM do nothing and they ain't build nothing and they this and that. But yet still, she's saying that and they're standing on the stage in a school that the same government built that you see they ain't build nothing. Shameless. But as I mentioned that, let me just show you the extent to which they will go, right? Truth is addictive, facts are stubborn things. So as I told you all, usually after live is on, some of them are on, some of them probably join afterwards and they listen. So let me just a screenshot it. Where is this? See if I get this here. Where is it? Right. So one of them decided to comment on my live from a couple of days ago. Let me get it. Where is it? Now, you all know I always refer to Annan Roberts as that bald-headed clown, the bald-headed rumcock, because he's bald-headed. I don't know if it's some of them that they have cataracts in their ears or glaucoma in their ears, but here what one of them puts. Asha, what's his name? Ranjag Prasad. Asha Ranjag Prasad. Don't know if she's listening or listen up. Here's what her comment to me was. Why call the man bald head? Bald head, B-A-L-L. I called him bald head, B-A-L-D. Watch yourself. You are so black. If dark night meets you outside, you're in trouble. Look at the extent to which they go to. Right? Racist to the core. Dotish as she is. Asha Ranjag Prasad. Right? If you're listening. The clown that you are, that you could find nothing else to talk about but other than my complexion, which I have no problem with, which I'm very proud of. Very, very proud of. And I'm sure you probably have some members of your family who would probably be interested. But anyway, I'm not. All right? But to talk about I'm so black, if dark night were to meet me outside, I'd be in trouble. Really? Okay, Asha. Just goes to show you all are racist. And that's how you expect to get votes? Votes of PNM supporters? Really? Like going down that road? Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I love my melanin. If you have a problem with it, I don't. Foolish. Just thought I'd mention that. If she listening. Yeah, don't listen. If I was saying his lies, don't listen. Foolish. Anyway. So we saw yesterday the latest development with respect to the UK, where it has been announced that, well, for as long as I've been alive, visas have never been required to visit the UK, in part because of our colonial history. And we were once a colony, British colony, and of course, yeah. So we see this latest development, which goes into immediate effect. The Trinidadians, Trinbagonians are now required to get a visa to go to the UK. Now, we saw the UK would have been engaging in certain activities within recent months to strengthen border control. So they would have introduced the ETA, the electronic travel, what is it? I can't remember what it is. Not just for Caribbean countries, but a number of countries around the world. In fact, I think even citizens of the United States require the ETA to go to the UK, right? New Zealand and stuff, even countries that are still part of the Commonwealth, that still have the King of England as their head of state, have been required to do ETAs to get to, I think it's electronic travel approval or something like that. Yeah, to go to the UK. But Trinidad and Tobago, unfortunately, they had to ramp it up a notch, because what we are told by the British High Commissioner is because they're seeing an increase in the number of citizens of this country presenting themselves at the airport and claiming asylum. And we saw similar things from the 80s. I was a young child at the time, right? So my memory of this wouldn't be as great as those of you who might be a little older. The situation with persons, Trinidadians, who were running to Canada claiming asylum and so on, which resulted in the imposition of visa requirements. Something that within recent times, over the last year and some, has been relaxed thanks to the efforts of the outgoing Prime Minister. The man that they want to vilify and whose legacy they wish to tarnish. Because I recall Dr. Rowley making mention of the fact that every time he had an opportunity to meet with former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, he would always lobby for the removal of the visa requirement. And I guess eventually he was able to wear down Mr. Trudeau, resulting in a situation where the Canadians decided, well, okay, they will relax the visa requirement. Not remove it all entirely, but relax it where if it is that you are currently the holder of a valid US visa, you don't need a Canadian visa to visit Canada. Or if you were the holder of a valid Canadian visa within the last 10 years, you would not require a Canadian visa to go. So this is only if you never had a visa, a Canadian visa, and you don't have a valid US visa, then you would need to apply for one, right? But that's better than what was before, where regardless, you needed to get one. All thanks to Dr. Rowley's lobbying, right? When his predecessor, the mistress of the mask, I heard somebody refer to her as Nosferatu, not me, right? But we will discuss that on another day. I'll read the post that was put out by someone, right? She never lobbied for such. She was quite content with it. That wasn't important to her when she was there, wants to come back. And all part I hear them talking about, oh, she articulate policy, and Monday she talk about policy. Did she talk about that type of foreign policy? You ever heard her boasting about what she did to lobby for that? No. But Dr. Rowley made it an issue. Every time he met Justin Trudeau, he would press for that, and he was successful in getting that for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. No applause for that. The fully Duns would never applaud him for that. But they're all over the place. As great as the PNM. You see what the PNM do is the PNM fault and the PNM fault. PNM fault. Okay. I'll put this on. I'm going to give you an example. Shameless. Turn this off. Give me 1 second here. Time flying by. Remember, folks, I said I had to be out by 8 because my meeting is at 10 and I know what that traffic is going to be. That's why I don't leave home early. Right, let me get this here. It's 2 sound bites I want to play this morning in the short time that I have. Try this again. Let me get this here. Good. The leader of the Congress of the People, right? Congress of the Person, Prakash Ramad, an attorney at law, another shameless one, so desperate to get back into political office. You know, some of these people just disgusting. Some. Listen to this clown.
The requirement by the British government for Trinidadians and Tobagonians to obtain visa to travel to Britain, to me, is an international embarrassment to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. They have indicated it is as a result of the influx of our citizens into their country seeking asylum. How did we arrive here? Can you blame anyone from this country who is mortally afraid for their well-being and their children's well-being in terms of the level of unprecedented crime? Can we blame anyone who does not see a future in the economy here, where once we are oil and gas exporter, now we're importers, where our foreign exchange is being depleted without any plan to replenish? Can you blame anyone where there's a fear that our food security is now deeply jeopardized, where the largest percentage of our food is imported food? And with the depletion of foreign exchange, we may not be in a position in the near future to purchase food. So I'm not making excuses. I'm just stating a reality that exists in this country. And a government who shamelessly for 10 years would have failed on almost every single occasion has the brass-facedness to speak with such, with such a abrasive tone, speaking about sovereignty in relation to the Americans, possibly putting sanctions and removing visa for certain persons as a result of our employing Cuban medical personnel. Could we not have asked for a discussion on these matters with the American authorities? Because we could play big, we could play bad, but at the end of the day, right, we're not as big and as bad as we think we are. We are always a law-abiding God-loving, God-fearing country. But something has gone terribly wrong, where almost every element that is required for proper governance has failed us. We must take responsibility for that. I think the way forward is one of high diplomacy, of course, with dignity and respect, but appreciating where we are in the world and how we navigate these very treacherous waters. The age of Bajonism that Dr. Rowley has repeatedly given is at an end in terms of where we are. We have to restore dignity into governance, dignity and decency into leadership. And with diplomatic approaches, I think we could recover a whole lot of where we need to be and put this country on a path to success. But it requires true leadership, not egotistic approaches. We need to ensure food security, energy security, and our personal security. This government has failed for 9 going on 10 years. And I imagine in this election, they will be seeking another 5 to do what? Fail for another 5 and therefore put us on a path of no return? No. The country must make a decision. It must make a decision now. All the parameters are reading in the red and in grave danger for us all. This country is in dire straits and grave danger under the leadership of the PNM, under Dr. Rowley, and certainly the change of prime minister, the change of leaders of the, in the PNM wouldn't make a difference. They are the one and the same policies and the same approaches. And
the only thing that amazes me with these people, they always talk about everything that's wrong with the country in dire straits and so on. But they can't proffer one suggestion as to how you fix what they see are all of these problems. It's easy to identify. It's the same thing they did. Same thing that they did. 2010. He was among the leaders, Axe the Tax. Right? Telling us about call the heart thief, billions and billions. But they came into office 2010 to 2015. Did they ever go after call the heart? They went after Malcolm Jones. Malcolm Jones, who we never heard about during the election campaign. But all of a sudden, we're going after Malcolm Jones. And I always ask the question, why did you go after Malcolm Jones and not the board of Petrotrin? Because anybody who understands corporate governance would know that Malcolm Jones could not have made any decision, especially not a decision as major as that one, on his own. The board would have had to take that decision, but you went after one man. But Calder Hart, who you say stole billions, you didn't go after him. No, the Attorney General then said, when we're ready for Mr. Hart, we know where he is. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days later, they still weren't ready for him. Right? All the billions that he thieved. So you give him enough time to spend it, to hide it, or whatever. Right? I'm seeing someone anyway. Let me not be distracted. I don't have the time this morning. Right? So they're trying to blame the government now for citizens who choose to run to seek asylum. So let me get this here. But I saw an article in I think it's in the Express this morning. I know I would have saved it. Why am I not seeing it? But all right, before I go there, so he talks about, Bajonism with respect to governance and so on, and we are not as big as we think we are. When you have a leader who is telling you, bat in your crease, stay in your lane, right? Basically, box in your weight class. This is what he says. This is what Prasad Bisesa is basically telling you. Trinidad and Tobago is a sovereign nation. Yes, you are a sovereign nation, but you must capitulate to the US. So whatever Donald Trump says goes. That's basically what he's saying, right? You should not have leaders who want to, as Dr. Rowley often wants to do, establish and reinforce the fact that we are a sovereign nation. And yes, we are dependent on trade relations with other countries who can use those trade relations as leverage to get their way, as we see as happens in the case of the US, not with respect to Trinidad and Tobago, but to the world as a whole, right? But it's the same thing when Prasad Bisesa in 2018, when she supported Juan Guaido, because that is what she felt Donald Trump wanted. And when Dr. Rowley stood up and said, not yet, we ain't doing that. When he stood up to Joseph Mondelo, Ralph Marad write a whole article about talking Dr. Rowley, lack of diplomacy and all of that and whatnot and stuff. Up to now, he's yet to write an article on Prasad Bisesa's condemnation of the former Biden administration, which she said was a disaster. After 4 years, a whole disaster. But look at what is taking place right now in the United States. You have Republican voters and supporters. The Republicans who hold The White House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court, and the House of Representatives, Congress. All over almost every state, they're protesting. They're calling on their politicians, their representatives, to hold town hall meetings so that they could express their frustration with what's taking place in their country just after 6 weeks or so, 6 or 7 weeks of this new administration, saying that all of these things that are happening, they didn't vote for that. Some of them didn't realize that when they voted for the current administration, they were voting to lose their jobs, and the things that is happening, they're seeing the stock market crashing, their 401ks that they are depending on for their retirement is dipping significantly, right? Globally, we will see reports coming out in a couple of months with respect to sovereign wealth funds. I told you all about Heritage and Stabilization Fund, which is called here, but it's a sovereign wealth fund. You will be seeing reports coming out with significant losses in these funds because of what is taking place in the United States with tariffs and so on, and the vacillating of the president. A decision today, tomorrow another decision. He imposed tariffs today, and then tomorrow he decides he's going to rescind it or he's going to postpone it for a month, and all of these different things. And this level of uncertainty is impacting business in the US, which will eventually have an impact elsewhere, right? And therefore, some countries need to take a stand. Well, all this is who we are, but yellow belly coward like this man who come here to tell you, well, all you feel we are not as big as you think you are, right? Continue with that mindset. Continue with that mindset. Dr. Oli took a position with respect to the statement made by Marco Rubio concerning Cuban doctors and Cuban medical professionals who are operating in other countries, assisting and so on. And Prasad Bisesa is saying, send them back. We have enough local medical practitioners or professionals here that we could use. Every year you have doctors graduating and a lot of them unemployed and the like. So let us employ these persons and send back the qualified, experienced Cuban doctors who during COVID who have great help. When she was prime minister, admitted by her former minister of health that they would have brought Cubans here, specialists in particular, because there was a shortage of specialists. I want to ask him, have we seen an increase in the number of specialists? So when they talk about, yes, we and the supporters love to talk about how much young doctors we have here, they graduate and they can't get a job and all of that. But I want to ask them, right? If it is that you needed to do some major surgery, and they come and tell you, well, this is the doctor who's going to operate on you. She just graduated or he just graduated from UE. Yeah, so, so it's going to be experimental. You accepting that? No. You want somebody with years of experience. Because if something go wrong and this person might know how to react to it. But the same people that they advocated, and I could speak to that. Because I've mentioned to you before about my own personal experience when my mother suffered a stroke in 2013. And my sister took her to Port of Spain General Hospital. And she was there. She got there around 1 o'clock, thereabouts. And she wasn't warded until 10:30 in the night. So when they're talking now about the wait time in the hospital, you go to the hospital and you waited hours for a bed and all of that. The same thing existed when they were there, but they don't talk about it and they pretend as if everything was perfect. And my mother was exhibiting all of the classical signs of a stroke. But having been warded at 10:30 in the night, and they afforded us the opportunity to go up on the ward to see her, because we couldn't see her while she was in accident and emergency casualty. And we went up and then, make sure she's okay and stuff. And the doctor came, this young doctor who looked like he could probably be in his mid to late 20s, right? And he did some simple tests, put out his hand like that and told her to put up your foot and push my hand with your foot, with your legs. She did that. And then he did the same thing with her hands and so that's all he did, right? And he said, well, based on the fact that she was able to do these things, I don't think it's a stroke. So we would need to run some other tests and so on and keep her overnight for observation so we could make a better diagnosis. The woman's tongue is heavy, right? When she's speaking, her speech is slurred. She's trying to speak, but you could tell that there was some level of deficiency in terms of, she was a little disoriented. She's trying to form statements and so on, but was having some challenges. He say it's not a stroke. Okay. Go on the next morning, bright and early, left side paralyzed. Right? Same doctor come. Well, so it appears that it is a stroke. You are a doctor. You went to medical school for how much years? Right? How many years? So you should be able to see what are the clinical signs of a stroke. We who are not medical professionals could tell that is what it is. But you say, no, you're saying it's not a stroke. All right? 2 days later, you decide to discharge her. Again, same doctor. Come, you discharge her. She says she's thirsty. Try to give her something to drink. She's not swallowing. Take a sip, coughing up. Problems to swallow. Draw it to the attention of the nurse. And the nurse comes and she does the same thing and whatnot. And then she says, okay, calls the doctor. Let's try and give her a teaspoon of water to drink. Same thing. And then you realize, throat muscles paralyzed, dysphagia, which is another symptom of stroke. All right? But you discharge her. You are the doctor. You couldn't tell that. You don't know that you need to test for these things, but you tell us discharge. So if it is she didn't ask for something to drink at that time, we would not have known, taken her out to the hospital. We had already decided we were going to take her to St. Clair Medical because we felt 2 days in the hospital was insufficient. And clearly, she was in no position to go home as yet. Right? But you say she discharged. You have to come now and take an NG tube to put it in her nose, to set it down inside of her stomach to be able to feed her. You are the doctor. Right? But they're advocating, they now come out of school, just graduated. But let us flood them into the medical system. Still have a lot to learn. And people's lives are at risk. So in that case, had we taken my mother and taken her home, who knows what would have happened? That NG tube stayed in her stomach for almost 3 weeks later, for the entire time that she was at St. Clair Medical. It was there, and that is how she had to be fed. Right? Couldn't eat solid stuff. So you had to be feeding her soup through this tube for 3 weeks. Stroke in progression. Eventually, she became paralyzed. She couldn't move and whatnot and stuff. She lost her ability to speak and so on. So it was a whole grueling experience now of having to provide her with therapy. You had physical therapy and then you had speech therapy. There was some kind of water, special water that she had to drink. So it's not like the consistency is not like normal water. I forget what they call it, but we had to buy that and all of these different things to be able to give her, right? 2 days after, well, they ended up, because of that, instead of discharging her on the Tuesday, they ended up keeping her for another few days, during which time she coded, right? Went into cardiac arrest. All of that happened. But 2 days after, you discharged her. Nah, she got to go home. So had she gone home, right? If we couldn't have afforded to take her to St. Clair Medical and we took her home, when she coded, what was going to happen? Fortunately, she was in the hospital at the time. Doctor was making rounds and he realized that she was unresponsive, right? I went to visit her in the morning and I'm seeing all of these doctors rushing to her bedside. And I know that is the bed that I left my mother on. So the young doctor comes to me and she says, well, you had to wait outside because I came to see her, right? And it's fortunate that the senior doctor, the specialist was making rounds at the time, saw that she was unresponsive, unconscious, and he was able to resuscitate her. So I get in there and my mother is hooked up to all these tubes and all of these things and oxygen and all of that. So they come to tell me her heart had stopped because her blood pressure fell extremely low. So when they advocating, oh, the young doctors and them, and they now graduate and they need that thing and we don't need. No, it may seem great, but from a practical standpoint, they still need support. And that is why we need these doctors who are experienced from Cuba. But you have the woman who wants to be prime minister, who is telling you to give her another term, is saying send them back. They were good for when she was there, when she was prime minister, but send them back and bring other people. And use the locals. Some of whom would have graduated 2 years ago and have not had any medical experience or practice. But let us bring them back into the system. 2 years. They're rusty. Right? They're rusty. They've not practiced medicine in 2 years, but let us bring them and flood them into the system because they have a degree that says they graduated as a doctor. And that is making sense to her. But when it is 2 cans of peas fell on her feet, she didn't think she could go to the hospital for that. To the public hospital that she was custodian for as prime minister. She couldn't go to Port of Spain General. She couldn't go to Mount Hope. 2 cans of peas, your claim fall on your foot. They went to St. Clair Medical. Why? If it was something more serious, I could say, well, okay, I figure, well, maybe you don't want, as Jenny would have mentioned, you don't want everybody to know your business because you're going to the public health sector. If it is that your information is leaked, you're going to sue himself, because that is a government institution. So the government ain't going to sue the government. Or they could. But at the end of the day, the person who would have leaked the information is not going to get sued. Worse, they might be fired or suspended. But then you have to identify who it is because several persons might have had access to that information. So when they talk about, oh, why it is the politician and them don't go to the local hospital, because we know that if Dr. Rowley were to go to the public health sector, and if anything is wrong with his health that he doesn't want disclosed as yet, you have people inside there, your business out on the street, even before he get to put on his clothes to leave, everybody don't know your business already. Hey, Rowley was there and they do tests and yeah, the man so and so. No regard for confidentiality because they know that they could beat the system and share people information. That is why some of them don't want to. Yeah, so and so come in here. Yeah, this one come in here the other day. Yeah, they run tests and they say they suspect it might be this and it might be that. Business out on the street, right? So that is when they figure it's just because they don't have confidence in the health sector. It's not that, because the other day when Terrence Delson had this issue, he went to the public hospital. And I'm sure there are others who go through as well, but it doesn't have to be broadcast or publicized. Or maybe it is a lot of the ministers keeping themselves in good health, so they don't need to visit the hospital. Plenty of you all who taking your money and going to private doctors. I have a client at St. Augustine Private, and whenever I go to visit her, more often than not, the waiting hall, the lobby is full of people coming for all, and these things are not cheap. People are investing in private health insurance so that they could be able to go because they figure they get better care there. People always complain, oh, them the nurses in the hospital and them is a sort of hug and whatnot and stuff. Okay. It's a psychological thing that people figure they will get better care because are paying for it, so are supposed to get better care. When some of the doctors in the public health sector telling you, well, if you had to do this procedure here, it will take so many months and so many months. So I suggest that you could do it privately. And they send in your way to the private institution where they work in because they are just consultants in the public health sector. It's a money-making thing, right? They see the public health sector as an opportunity for them to prospect, to get clients, to send to the private so they could make money. I told you about the same situation with my sister when she was in a particular private institution in West Port of Spain, in Port of Spain area, and she was sick for a couple months, and they ran all kind of tests and can't find out what was wrong with her. And then she went to this institution. She was there for a week. They discharged her, and then the symptoms came back. She went back again, spent a whole set of money, ton of money. Good thing she could have afforded it. And then they come to tell her, well, we know we need to do an endoscopy, and it's going to cost $34,000 and all kind of thing. And we just put a camera down inside your stomach to see if we can have an idea as to what is happening, but we can't guarantee that will tell us what the problem is. And she asked us, me and my older sister, what do you think I should do? I said, listen, it don't make sense if they're telling you that will not definitively tell you what the problem is. You're just wasting your money. Okay? So, and you're here and they're not doing anything. They can't really do anything for you. Symptoms ease a little bit, come back home, went back. Called my big sister, say what to do. Should we take her back? She said, no, just take her to Port of Spain General Hospital because she's just been wasting money and it don't make sense. Go on to Port of Spain General Hospital. And the same doctor from that private institution who wanted her to pay $34,000 to do the endoscopy, he is a consultant in Port of Spain General, and they had the facilities there to do it. And he did it in Port of Spain General Hospital. Cost her nothing. And they were able to determine what the issue was, that she had gastroparesis because of her diabetes, her stomach muscles were paralyzed, and they were able to do surgery and stuff and fix the problem. Right? Now, he couldn't tell her that. Well, I could refer you to Port of Spain General to do it for free. Whereas a consultant, he's aware that the facilities are there to do it for free. No, you're here, you have the money, you have insurance, and you have money you could pay. Spend the $34,000, despite the fact you already spent how many tens of thousands already, and we can't tell you what the problem is. But the mistress of the mass say, nah, send them back. Why? Because that's what Donald wants. Okay. Interest of time. I'm going to play this other one for you. So this guy is an attorney, a UNC attorney. He goes by, his name is Rishi Tripathi. He is the guy whose name was touted in 2020 when there was the alarm bells were raised over Ravi Ratiram's nomination or candidacy to represent Couva North for the UNC, right? When issues were raised about human trafficking, prostitution, and so on. And the leader of the opposition, when asked on nomination day about that, the claims that Mr. Tripathi is going to be replacing Mr. Ratiram, she said she has confidence in all of her candidates. despite all that was in the public domain. She wasn't inclined to tell Mr. Rajaram, clear your name and come back, as she's often want to do, right? When PNM people accuse her of something, you need to clear your name and whatnot and rowdy there. Listen to Mr. Tripathi. He's supposed to be a learned attorney, right? This is the future of the UNC. I want to listen to him carefully. He's among the future of the UNC. I'm sure he probably has political aspirations.
For a party that's been in power for over 75% of the time since our independence, when you think PNM, you think out of control crime, you think high cost of living, you think a lack of diversification, a lack of innovation, you think of failure, you think of scandal, you think of corruption. But they have this remarkable ability to try and flip the switch, change the script on us by changing leader at certain key times in our nation's history. Yet again, the PNM, at this very late hour, 23rd hour, Rowley will try to hand over prime ministership to Stuart Young to try and hoodwink the population into believing that Stuart equals a new PNM. Make no mistake about it. Keith is Stuart. Stuart is Keith. By gifting him prime ministership, a further abuse on the taxpayers' dollars will take place. Stuart, even if he serves for a minute as prime minister under the Prime Minister's Pensions Act, will receive a pension of $87,000 plus per month, over $1 million per year in pension for the rest of his life. Think about that for a second. If that is not the greatest gift, I don't know what is. A man who has never faced the polls as the leader of the PNM, never faced the electorate, will be gifted a lifetime pension. This is abuse of the public purse and abuse of the public trust and confidence. And I endorse Mrs. Prasad Bisesar's reluctance to support this decision. I understand that there will be constitutional interpretation and there may be legal challenges following this. And I'm 100% opposed to this blatant abuse of the public purse. And we must pay attention to this and we must remember this.
So that is UNC attorney, Mr. Tripathi, says when you think of the PNM, you think of scandal and you think of corruption. So I want to ask him, when we think of UNC, what are we supposed to think of? From 1995 to 2001 and then 2010 to 2015. When I think of UNC, I think of the Piarco Airport scandal, described as the worst act of corruption ever perpetrated on the citizens of a country by its government. So says Bob Lindquist. He said that a Canadian won a horse in the race. But apparently Mr. Tripathi don't remember that. Right? I remember it, and he looked like we could probably be a similar age bracket. But he pretends. He pretends. How many talk about scandal? How many scandals did we as citizens have to endure between 2010 to 2015? Every week is a minister being fired, cabinet reshuffle, somebody name getting called up in some kind of bacchanal. If it is that they're not forcing people to engage in sexual activities to get a house, is some minister named as a Bagamoni minister, somebody kickback, all kind of bacchanal taking place. Who it is with some minister get fired because the son tendered for a contract within their ministry and they sat in on the tender process, and all of these, all kind of wrong thing. We had to go through 5-6 ministers of national security and the like minister being fired, women fancy. Or we're hearing people, ministers fired, and then they coming out and telling you what the situation is and all of these different things, right? So Verna St. Rose Graves, or they lock up a woman for 2 weeks because the woman, you say she mad, but she in the madhouse for 2 weeks. All kind of crazy. But apparently, Mr. Tripathi doesn't think that is scandal. Doesn't think about corruption. Right? Here it is that we are 10 years later after they left office, and we have a man who was a senior minister and who was anointed by Prasad Bisesar to be her successor, now finds himself the subject of a civil suit where he stands accused of fraud, bid rigging, conspiracy, and other things. And he's also the subject of a police investigation into the same matter. We have a man sitting as the chief whip, right? The chief whip who, if the script is flipped and they're on the other side, but be the leader of the house, is currently before the courts on $1 million bail for fraud, conspiracy, misbehavior in public office. We have another one, a member who he was supposed to replace, right? we were told, under police investigation for human trafficking and prostitution and possible corruption while he sat on the board of PTSC. And this is somebody who was the vice chair of TSTT. And while he was vice chair of TSTT, another one of his colleagues got a big job in TSTT for which he was not qualified. And he used his position in this big job, again, to give contracts to people who could not execute the contract. Millions of dollars was paid in advance. And when it is that investigations were done by the relevant authorities within TSTT and they realized what went on here, the company was asked to return the money and say, well, you know, we don't spend some of the money already, so we want a payment plan so we can pay all it back. And all of that took place. This person was fired from 2 public utilities companies for the same thing and is sitting in the parliament today. You have members of the UNC who have fallen out of favor, were quiet all the time, but now that they fall out of favor, they come in and telling you, well, you know, this was happening on the inside and we had concerns about people who being investigated for this and people being investigated for that. But Mr. Tripathi, who is an attorney at law and is supposed to be well qualified at that, because his name has been mentioned in circles as being a prominent attorney, he could read the judgment of Justice Abood with respect to that EMBD matter. A layman like me, I have no degree in law, I have no qualifications in law, but just common sense, reading this judgment, and you could see, hey, there's a lot of things in here that requires answers. That seems to be very damning. That while Munilal all over the place talking about, you know, is PNM, is a PNM witch hunt, and Prasad Bisasa telling you that there's nothing more than the PNM trying to make all East Indians look like thief. As an attorney herself, and Munilal has credentials in law, but he knows the truth. They could read this thing and see, hey, there's some things in here that is very concerning. But Mr. Tripathi doesn't seem to think that that is corruption. He doesn't think that that is scandal, right? That when he thinks PNM, that is what comes to mind. Lack of diversification. How did the UNC diversify the economy? Between 2010 to 2015 or 95 to 2001. How did they diversify the economy? How? I would love for him to tell us that. And I read some article, I'll see if I find it. They have the audacity to say that Dr. Rowley and the PNM had a responsibility from 2015 to diversify the economy. So between 2010 to 2015, what was the responsibility of that government? I wonder if Mr. Tripathi or any of them who talk for the UNC could tell us one thing or two things that they did to diversify the economy. Because apparently diversification is the sole responsibility of the government. The private sector doesn't have a role to play in that. Because apparently if a man decides that he wants to go into some type of business that is very lucrative, you need permission from the government to do it? Really? You want to go into a major business that could diversify the economy. But we know when it is a certain man wanted to sell onions, to grow onions for export, they give him 100 acres. They whole 100 acres mega farm that Mr. Manning put in place that was supposed to lead diversification in agriculture. They shut down the mega farm, say the government not supposed to compete with the private sector. But here, whole 100 acres, go and plant your onion. And what sprung up? A very successful restaurant. Yeah. What did they do? Maybe they could point us into that direction. But we've seen the manufacturing sector grow under this administration. We see that this government has been promoting entrepreneurship among the citizenry, providing opportunities, providing funding for persons who aspire to be entrepreneurs to be able to realize their entrepreneurial dreams. Prasad Bisasa did that? No. Talking about we want to create jobs and jobs. But I will talk about that in another day to tell you while they're complaining about how many jobs were lost with the closure of Petrotrin. In the first 6 months of coming into office, I will read for you all in detail how many people they fired. Over 5,000 people were fired in the first 6 months of them coming into office. These hypocrites. I don't have the time today to address that, but we will treat with it on another day, perhaps next week, Tuesday. Yeah, we will touch on that because I said no live on Sunday, sorry. Right? And hypocrites. But let me play another one for you quickly. This is the future of the UNC. Future of the UNC. Listen to him again.
I wish to endorse the sentiments echoed in the release by the leader of the opposition, Mrs. Prasad Bisasa, yesterday. Her congratulations to President Trump, her wishes and her expectations, what she wishes to see out of this administration, and also her very strong criticism against the outgoing Biden-Harris administration that has failed miserably. And to the persons who criticize Mrs. Prasad Bisasa, you are also criticizing the will of the American people, because the American people voted in a landslide defeat against Biden and Harris. They were abject failures. Their weakness in office has deteriorated society. Their weakness in office has led to this woke culture getting more out of hand than it already was. Their weakness in office has escalated violence in the Middle East, in Ukraine and Russia, and all over the world. And it's time for stability and strength to return at the forefront of world politics. We are not accustomed to strong leadership in Trinidad over the last. I don't know who's gonna kiss you better. World politics. We are not accustomed to strong leadership in Trinidad. Over the last 10 years, we have seen the weakest form of leadership via Keith Rowley and the PNM. They have pandered to the Venezuelans and they have pandered to, they've given in to the criminal element and not stood up for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Maybe that is why endorsing strength seems foreign to some of you all. But what I will say is the Republican Party. I wish to endorse the sentiments echoed in world politics for family values, religion, the bedrock of society, the cultural values that have made us great over generations. We don't need this woke culture. People should be free to live how they wish, but don't impose that on the rest of society. So again, I endorse 100% the sentiments raised by Mrs. Prasad Bisasa, and we need to get accustomed to strong leadership. The world is better for it, our country will be better for it, and we look forward to new strong leadership in Trinidad and Tobago very soon.
You're looking forward to strong leadership, but yet still Dr. Rowley has said, look, this is our position with respect to this Cuba matter and so on. Right? That's not strong leadership. Instead, he considers strong leadership to be capitulation. We had Mr. Trump say, so if Mr. Trump say, we had to go with that. Right? Dr. Rowley, speaking on behalf of CARICOM, recently would have made the announcement, consideration by CARICOM, a decision that was taken to declare, certain types of gun violence as acts of terrorism. Prasad says, there's a set of idiots in government and Rowley and thing, and we saw the latest travel advisory by the United States citizens, the United States government warning their citizens about coming here. Because when Rowley said that and they figure it have terrorists, and how foolish that is, and her government will not support that. This is a decision, not Rowley decision. This is a CARICOM decision. Because they think that this is necessary to treat with the increase in gun violence that they're all experiencing. But she said, no, a man decide to take an AR-15 or some other type of automatic weapon and just walk into a crowd of people that you don't know, man, woman, child, dog, cat, he okay. Open fire, rat-a-tat, pet bullets, lick down 6, 7, 8 people, right? And injure about 10 more. And she doesn't think that incidents like that should be considered to be terrorism. That's okay. Because remember, they supported, after he do that and the police catch him, the UNC lawyers going in court to fight for he to get bail, so he could come out again and repeat it. Make sure I kill the witnesses. Rat-a-tat, lick down people. She don't declare that as an act of terrorism, and she will not support that. Well, a couple of days ago, her US mentor, right, the man who she so reveres, made an announcement, a declaration in support of his partner, his right hand, his ride or die, Elon Musk, right, on the White House lawn. He said if it is that vandalism of Tesla vehicles will be considered domestic terrorism. So if it is, you were doged, that's a new term, right? You lost your job. You're working for the government and you lost your work. And you're blaming Elon Musk and you're walking down the road and you see a Tesla vehicle and you pick up a big stone and you shell down the Tesla and you mash up the windshield. According to the president, Donald Trump, that is domestic terrorism. You're a terrorist because if you see you're in a car park in the mall and you see a Tesla and you don't like Elon Musk and you pull out your car keys and you decide you run it from the trunk straight to the bottom and you key the car, that is vandalism. According to Donald Trump, you are considered a domestic terrorist because you vandalize a Tesla. You could vandalize a Mercedes. You could vandalize a BMW. You can vandalize a Lamborghini. You could vandalize a Ferrari. But if you vandalize, that would be considered a misdemeanor. But if you put hand to a Tesla, you're a domestic terrorist. I wonder if Calamity Jane supporting that. Right? She doesn't support somebody who opens fire on a crowd and kill a few people. That shouldn't be an act of terrorism. You know what's an act of terrorism? If you vandalize a Tesla. Well, we have Teslas here in Trinidad. Yes, Teslas on sale, on the road. So I wonder if she comes in, she doesn't support Dr. Rowley and CARICOM, but she supports in her mentor that if she becomes prime minister and somebody vandalizes a Tesla in Trinidad, if she supports calling that person a terrorist. I just asking her, you're supporting that, Calamity Jane? Was somebody referred to you as Nosferatu? Not me. I will read the article where the person used that too. Right? I just asking, because everything Trump says right, you're supporting that, and this clown, Tripathi, he's supporting whoever. Should she become prime minister, she needs to create a ministry called the Ministry of Brown Nosing and put him as the Minister of Brown Nosing. Because when he finished making those 2 videos, all he needed to do was to go to the bathroom and just take a roll of toilet paper, right? A generous helping, and just wipe your face. Wipe your face, right? You need to have a toilet bowl handle and you just flush every time you speak. This is the nonsense. This is the future of the UNC. You understand the clear and present danger? So even if you get rid of the current batch, the future just as bad. Just as bad. But they like to call PNM supporters sycophants and PNM supporters drinking Balize juice. And something wrong with us. But that is what they supported. We need strong leadership in this country. What she offering is strong leadership. Capitulation is strong leadership. What Prakash Ramada offering is strong leadership. When it is that you're willing to sacrifice your sovereignty for the sake of what? Kowtowing, to use her word, or kowtowing, as she say, to Donald Trump? Yes, massa. How high? You know, I'm 73. I can't really jump that high, but let me see if I can find a trampoline that might be able to assist me. And I'll get Greg to hold me on one side and Julian on the next side. Yes, and I will jump. Yes, I can't jump I can't jump half a foot. But a trampoline could help me, sir. Yeah, don't worry. I will make it happen because you see it. Oh, great one. All over the United States. Man, talking about this new administration and woke culture. UNC epitomizes woke culture. The same things that they are against talking about anyway. But all I know what I'm talking about. It abounds in the UNC, but they wouldn't talk about that. Some of these people are his own colleagues. His own colleagues. But talking about woke culture. Nobody in the UNC is supposed to talk about that. I need to keep quiet, hush all your mouth. But he is the future of the UNC, among others. So understand, nothing is going to change. And so while he wants to say Stuart is Rowley and Rowley is Stuart, who is Kamala is one, who is Kamala? You can even identify a successor. The day she leaves office, whether it's by force or voluntarily, is bacchanal and mayhem in the UNC. Bacchanal and mayhem. They're fighting each other like crabs in a barrel now. Imagine if it is she steps down or if it is she mercifully expires. What's going on with that party? 36 years old, big hardback man of a party, and always still knocking from pillar to post like the littlest hobo, homeless, still renting, and she talking nonsense about it's better to rent than to own. Yeah. Well, why you own the Pink Palace? Why you didn't go and rent? Why you didn't go and rent instead of building that big pink palace that you're living in? Nonsense. That's the rubbish that they want, and they have people who support that garbage. Miss me with that foolishness. Up to now, your election could call anytime you name 11 candidates. 11 candidates. Look at what's happening in Tobago. They had to pick 2 candidates. You pick one for Tobago East. How long now you screen people for Tobago West, and up to now you can't make a choice? The PNM, every single person that they screen, decision made same night. They're waiting 2 and 3 weeks, not even 2 days. We screen how many of our persons for this particular constituency. When they finish the screening committee, go in the back room, they sit down, they talk, they debate, right? And then they come back out as a candidate and let the person know one time. We say, just hold on nonsense, we'll let you all know shortly. We don't need like other parties that taking months, screening people, and months later, the candidates don't know. They're in abeyance. Poor Khadija. I read on UNC Cabal Facebook page that she's looking for a Siaman or a Obiaman because she don't know what to do. Right? So long she gets screened and they can't name her yet. So she don't know if to walk, not to walk. Apparently, these are people who are supposed to be seasoned politicians, understand how an election campaign goes. My constituency, not big like somebody else, but I have a lot of work to do. And I try to work at least 4 days for the week. Eventually, it's going to be ramped up where we had to take weekends too, in order to be able to touch every area in the constituency. And my campaign team is telling me I had to work 2 and 3 times. So how they making out? How they making out when people screen so long and don't know? So in the meantime, and then you have to get, aside from working your constituency, of course, you need to organize finances and so on, whether it's coming from your own pocket or you have to seek assistance from persons in the area who might be supportive of your party and these things. They're not serious. And when it is that you have a new party, as she calls it, a pop-up party like the Patriotic Front, have named 14 candidates, and the seasoned party, the 36-year-old hardback party, only name 11 and talking nonsense, but we're taking our time and want to make sure we present. They ain't fooling nobody, or they can't get nobody of caliber to come forward to offer themselves as candidates. That is what it is. Imagine, I know somebody who's a seasoned professional, a vice president in a particular company, right? And he indicated to me they come and ask him to, if he would consider running for them in a REMA. He said, that's a lost cause. Seriously? Really? No thanks. Well, give me a safe seat now. Well, they want to put me in a REMA for Penny to slaughter me after. Look, that's the desperation that they're in right now. Bunch of jokers. As I say, I have to jump off at 8 o'clock, so let me just see how quickly I could take 2 calls here, and then, yeah. Mr. Yates, you can call me back. As I said, we have a lot more to talk about, but I really don't have the time today. And my phone keep ringing is because they call in to make sure that I remember I have that meeting this morning. So, yeah. I remember I'm already fully dressed. Get this here. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Oh, well, when they see the British ambassador, the High Commissioner on TV last night, they were celebrating, man. They were celebrating. It's as if they by Coral River, man, on a Sunday morning, stirring the pot of chicks, curry chicken. You know what I mean? You know what they see there? They see this big white man come on TV and sucking it to the PNM.
Yes.
What if there is a big white man come there to fall down Dr. Rowley? He come to put Oreo and black man in his place. He come to straighten out Rowley and all them Rawan, to use the word, all them Rawan in the PNM. That is how she sees the big white man from England on TV last night. Not realizing it's the own people who gone up there and muddy the waters of Trinidad people who looking to go to England on a real vacation. It's a whole people. There's a repetition in 1988 and the dotishness with Canada and refugee status all the time. Practice this in Muslim and the Muslims in Islam, and they raping our children, and studying Muslims, virgins, and all the rest of it. But anyways, she's celebrating the white man come to ball down the Rowley. That is how they see the British High Commissioner last night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Massa speak, and they're only too happy. I'm gonna take this last one here. Just give me 1 sec there, caller. Just make a switch here. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Good morning, John. How are you, darling?
I am good.
Come for you. She is so confused. She's like a piece of paper that he went to go all kind of wrong. Had Biden won last year, he's the best thing. Right? Cannot make up your mind to what you are saying. You are confused. The thing with Roberts was said that should they win, they're going to work with Maduro. She says A, he says B. They are the party of confusion, calmness, and it's been a madhouse, slapping each other knee. Doggone, have a good day, bye-bye.
You too. Thank you. Final call. Brian. Yes, sir.
Very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Morning.
Morning.
Yes, Dr. Fing, I'll tell you something about it. All the hospitals that Dr. Rowley built, they have a problem with it. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
Because you see privatization of doctors. You understand? So they want you, the people, the poor people, not to go to the public hospitals
Correct.
and get good medical attention and good care. They want you to go to the private medical places where you have to pay, how much is it, $34,000 and $50,000 and
Yes.
$100,000 for the same care that you will get in the public hospitals. Because look at what Kamala Prasad is saying in one of our ads right now, that we will send private doctors to see the aged people and assist them in their homes. How is she doing that? When they walk in, they'll go by a trace 11:30 night. With the medical kit and the stethoscope, they walk with a gun in the hand too. They're walking with a 11, who paying them? How are they being paid? And how much money? They're working with an assistant, they're working with a nurse, or they're alone going out there to look for the old person. How the old person calling them? Even 11 in the night, they're about to get a stroke or something going wrong and they won't need medication. I don't call the doctor, doctor, come by me now. I'll be here. They'll come and check me, please now. Who paying for that? Kamala Prasad is about corruption. Period. Nothing more. But you should be helping the Cubans to come and assist in giving the locals experience. You have a problem with the Cubans who have come all over the world, including during COVID in Italy, because Italy people ask for them to come across there to assist them because they have the experience. All of a sudden, now you are against that because why? You want to, as you say, kowtow to Donald Trump. Donald Trump have the United States of America in a mess. You look at MSNBC as I do on BBC every night, and you will see how people are literally crying. But Kamala Prasad is telling you she could send doctors to your homes to help you. And when you have public institutions to do that, but no, you must go to the private sector and get help from those same doctors and pay your life and limb and get them money. They can get that same help in the public institution. That is why certain people cannot get into UE to do the medical get the medical experience that they require and the qualification that they require. That they have to go abroad, like in Mona and so on, to get that and Grenada. Why is that? Kamala Prasad says nothing about money for certain set of people, and that is how she wants to run Trinidad and Tobago. No change. Waste of time. So they will find all sorts of faults with the central bloc. Normal thing. That is what they do. They don't look at it good. Imagine Jason Williams asking Dira Maharaj this morning about Dr. Rowley's legacy. How you could ask Dira Ramprasad, about Dr. Rowley's legacy? She had nothing good to say this morning. Anyway, have a good day.
You too, sir. So that will be it for calls for today, folks. Let me just respond quickly to the devil's advocate here, Winston Bachelor, even though Jenny Tama forget him, but I'll just respond to this. He says, the PNM Manifesto of 2020, less than half have been done. If I was to do a half job, I would be fired. The PNM did less than half. Let that sink in. Well, let me let something sink in for you, Winston, because apparently, I don't know, that either your memory short or you're suffering from some form of cerebral deficit. Prasad Bisesa in 2010, they promised fixed term limits for Prime Minister. Was that done, Winston? She promised fixed dates for election. No longer will the Prime Minister be able to pull the election date out of his back pocket and his forbes. Was that done? They promised us recall legislation that if your MP playing up in the monthly salary, you just need a certain number of a percentage of the constituents to sign a form, a petition, and we will recall the MP and they would have a by-election. Was that done? When it is that they canceled the smelter plant in La Brea, she promised the people of La Brea, what did she say? Don't worry. Those of you who are depending on jobs in the smelter plant, we have you. We are going to build a shipbuilding facility on the same site on which the smelter plant was supposed to be built. Was that done, Winston? That's just some of the things that they promised, Winston. And as we are on the topic of smelter plant, aluminum, right? Look at what happened now with Donald Trump imposing tariffs on Canada. the significant tariffs that they're going to impose on Canada with respect to aluminum products coming from Canada. So it means aluminum products coming from Canada into the United States is going to be significantly more expensive. That would, if we had a smelter plant here producing aluminum products, you know what would have happened, Winston? That is a vacuum that we could have filled, because since there are no tariffs on stuff coming from Trinidad and Tobago, we could have now sold our aluminum products to the US market and capitalize on this opportunity that has been presented. But you know what, Winston? We can't do that because we don't have a smelter plant. The same smelter plant that the UNC, Kamla Prasad says that the PP administration would have done their homework when they came in. They did due diligence and commissioned a report which showed them that the plant would have been successful and profitable at 2,200 US per ton for aluminum. Today the price is close to 2,800, and at one point in time it had been as high as 3,200 since they took that decision, Winston. But what do you have to say about that? And you tell them now that those were not. I am not disputing what you said. But you know what is disingenuous about you UNC supporters? When the UNC, when Kamala couldn't do all the things that she promised to do in the 5 years, 3 months and 14 days that she was there, you hypocrites come out and say, well, you know, all you expected her to do that in 5 years is only one term she had, and 5 years is not enough. But everything that was in the 2010 manifesto, they said they were going to do it in 5 years. The UNC don't have a 2020 plan. And so when they're talking about the 2020 manifesto, all right, the PNM had Vision 2020, which is a document that was created by the People's National Movement, but involved persons from all different walks of society. Some of the people who contributed to some of the policies in that document were UNC ministers, people like Botiwari and the like, right? This was an all-encompassing document where Mr. Manning didn't see political affiliation. He saw professional ability, and would have brought in all of these people to contribute to that. And when it is that you all who support the UNC decided to give them a Kobo sweat in 2010 and set back Vision 2020, that when Dr. Oli came in 2015, Vision 2020 had to become Vision 2030 because you all set us back at least 10 years. So when you're talking about the 2020 vision, the 2020 manifesto, it's Vision 2030. We're in 2025. We still have another 5 years. There are things in the manifesto in Vision 2020, Vision 2030 that were not in Vision 2020, 2030 that this government would have done, because it's an adaptable party and an adaptable government. So that as you go along, you realize, oh, look, we put this in here, but we are unable to do this right now. So for instance, one of the things in Vision 2020, envisioned by Mr. Manning, we were supposed to have a rapid rail. Where is the rapid rail today? We don't have it. So you will say that, okay, they did not achieve that. You know why they didn't achieve it? Because people like you, Winston, bought into the UNC propaganda about vanity projects, all of these things. All they're complaining now about the savannah, right? Mr. Manning wanted to build a facility where the roof was retractable, and they would have had a stage that could come up from under the ground and so on, so we could have made adjustments so that when it is that you have different carnival events taking place at the savannah, if rainfall, as we see sometimes, or the wind is not favorable to the large costumes, because many times while working as an administrator with NCC and seeing big costumes, the breeze blow, they fall down and all kind of thing, which impacted the competitors' performance and these things. We could have been able to close the roof, and that would have dealt with these things. But you know what all I say? A vanity project. And all these things were cancelled that Mr. Manning wanted to put in place. All that was part of Vision 2020. So you could go back and look at Vision 2020 and say this wasn't achieved, and that wasn't achieved, and that wasn't achieved. A lot wasn't achieved because you all bought into the foolishness, the nonsense, because you're claiming you wanted a developed society. But everything that Kamala said, if Mr. Manning had listened to Prasad Bisasa, we wouldn't have had a waterfront today. The Port of Spain waterfront, we wouldn't have had that today. You know why? Because they said that was vanity project too. Kamala said, Manning overheating the economy. He building too many things. He's crowding out the private sector. You can't even get a mason or a carpenter because everybody working for the government. Mr. Manning said, to hell with all you. And he built it. And it was a shameful thing with some of you all, Winston, is the fact that that waterfront project was first articulated in UNC policy. If you go back and you read the last budget presentation of Gerald Yetming, Minister of Finance under Pandey, It is in that budget statement, either 2000 or 2001, somewhere there. Right? That budget statement, they were going to build the exact same thing, save and except instead of the Hyatt, they had proposed a Marriott. But when they articulated that in their budget, it wasn't vanity project. But Mr. Manning came in and said, it's a good idea. We need it. Let's put it in place. All of a sudden, it become a vanity project. All of a sudden, it's a waste of money. All of a sudden, Manning want to change the Port of Spain skyline. The hypocrisy, but they could play on the ignorance of some of you all who don't know that these things were articulated by them. And the PNM didn't have a problem. They said, well, now that's a UNC project, so we're not going to do it because it's a UNC project. No, it made sense. Mr. Manning was following on the heels of Lee Kuan Yew, former Prime Minister of Singapore, who said, if you want developed country status, you need to build. Go up, build it, and they will come. Because if you want to attract people, business people from North America, they are accustomed to skyscrapers. So you need to build these skyscrapers and they will come. And that's why Singapore is where it is today. And Mr. Manning tried to treat with that. He tried to implement that and only fight it down. Everything that this government does is a fight down. Everything is vanity project, vanity project. We need that. They could have spent that money to buy more hospital bed, and they could have spent that money to build more schools, and they could have spent that money to buy medication in the hospital. That's always what you all say. They shouldn't do it because you all always have something better for them to spend the money on, and then come in to talk nonsense now about, oh, they didn't do half of what it is. Rubbish. Rubbish. Look at what some of the things that were done that was not in the manifesto, but you all wouldn't look at that. And then come in to tell me nonsense now, but not you see that as the newspaper. Well, you continue to read your newspapers, sir, right? And show that you lack critical thinking skills and then come here and talk that rubbish. I never said that you didn't like Manning. You could like somebody and still criticize him, and that is what was done because plenty of the people who criticized a lot of the projects that the People's National Movement would have done under Mr. Manning, right? It was criticized when it was being done. And then today, the same people, the same hypocrites, coming to talk now about, Manning was a real leader, Manning was a real statesman, Manning this and Manning that. All of a sudden, all praising him today. But when at the time when he was Prime Minister and doing it, no praises. You all were condemning everything that he was doing. Waste of money. But today, we have the waterfront. Thanks, Mr. Manning built it that they had a space to hold the parliament while the Red House was under renovation. Today, that space that was previously occupied by the parliament holds now 66 courtrooms and is now the Waterfront Judicial Center. 66 courtrooms, right? We have an additional 32 or 34 judges. The number of judges in the judiciary has doubled under this administration. So more people, and still we have challenges, but at least we have more judges now to dispense justice and try to speed up the process. But no applause for that. All they're looking for, nah, that good. We can't talk about that. No, we can't talk about that. That good. That good, that good. Anything negative there? Anybody find anything negative? Yeah, I find something here. Bring it. Let me talk about that. Let me run on this one live and that one live and talk about that and criticize the government. But we don't want nothing positive because this government do nothing good. And then you all say you want good for this country? Miss me with that bullshit. Folks, we will chat again. We will chat again on Tuesday. Right? Or probably I'll see if I could jump on tomorrow morning and continue. I have a long day today and yeah, from morning till night. Campaigning this evening and 2 meetings after that. I don't know how we're doing that. Similar time frames, but we'll see what will happen, right? That's right, Trevor. Damned if you do and damned if you don't. But that only applies to the PNM. Only applies to the PNM. So when I see people popping on here to tell me nonsense about they saw progress under the UNC, you saw more progress under this administration. But for them, 1 hospital better than 5. And for them, 0 increases in personal allowance is better than 3 increases in personal allowance. For them, paying income tax is better than not paying income tax as a result of an increase in your personal allowance. This government can do nothing good, right? For them, creating employees to work 8 to 4 jobs and 9 to 5 jobs instead of providing them with the tools that they need to become their own business owners, to write their own paychecks and open their own business. It's better to be an employee than to be an employer or to be a business owner. Yeah, so we want Kamala to come back to create 55,000 jobs instead of maintaining the PNM who wants to create thousands of entrepreneurs, business owners. So you could determine your own destiny. You could build generational wealth, build a legacy for your children to take over. Always criticizing the 1%, but the very thing that the 1% is doing, building generational wealth and businesses for their children. When it is that this administration is trying to give the average citizen in this country the opportunity, well, you will never praise them for that. You will never promote that, right? We don't want that. We want these people to continue to work hard, get up early in the morning and have to run out by the road to get a taxi and 2 and 3 taxis to get to work to make sure they reach the work from 10 to 8, and they get an hour for lunch, and then they leave at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock to head back in the traffic, and when they reach home, and the salary that they're making every month is not sufficient to pay the bills, but let them live paycheck to paycheck until they retire. And then they're not prepared for retirement and have to go back out now looking for contract work to go and work in the gas station, to work in the grocery, to work as a security guard, because you weren't able to save for your retirement and now you're struggling and you still have needs. Rather than, let us look at what the PNM is offering the population, opportunities for you to own your own business, right? So you could live off of that when you retire, and your children could take it to the next step, the next level, and you could dress back and relax. But apparently, for some of them who support the UNC, only the 1% and the 9% supposed to do that. But the next 90% all year, you all serve only as labor for the 1% and the 9% so that they could make all the millions and enjoy life. And you all, every morning, sir, I wonder if we go get a 10% raise, by. I wonder if we go get back pay, by. When we get back pay. Yeah, stupid. Folks, look. Anyway, I'll see if I can come on tomorrow. If not, we'll chat Tuesday. Hey, I'm going to do the people work.